Hello world, welcome to another episode of the Volcanion Chronicles. Today we're doing a themed episode since we're starting to switch things up. Today we're focusing entirely on mirror matches. So I've noted before that I've had a pretty good success with mirror matches, so I wanted to go ahead and do a video over them. Uh, so here we are. You can see we're starting Shaymin as everyone is wont to do. That's clearly not what we would choose if we had the choice, but whatever. Our opponent starts a Volcanion-EX, and we're going second, so we're just kind of waiting. He plays a Nest Ball, and clearly with Nest Ball he's not going to grab like a Hoopa or Shaymin because you don't get the effect, and he actually gets an Oranguru. So that's our first clue that maybe this isn't the most competitive deck. But I mean, it is Volcanion. You can't write anybody off. And our opponent plays immediately, well, he uses a Trainer's Mail to get a Hex Maniac. Throws down a Sky Field, plays a Sycamore. Would have been a bit of a pain if he had played the Hex, except, right now our card state doesn't look like we have anything going on. Plays a Float to the active and a Trainer's Mail, but doesn't get anything off the Trainer's Mail. Then we see him steam up. Now this is a mistake unless he just needs the card. He does, unless he needs to get rid of the card. He does play a Shaymin there, so he was steaming up basically just to get the Shaymin down, to get an extra card off of Shaymin. That's okay. It's not horrible. I suppose you do want to continue your setup, so I guess I don't mind it. It did get him an in. He hasn't played it yet though, but he is going to Max Elixir and Myth. And then he's going to play an energy retrieval to get one energy and attach it to the EX. That's the way you want to do it. Then he plays an Escape Rope. He's doing that just so that he can use Oranguru's Instruct for one card. I think that's a bit of a mistake because in Escape Rope, we know he has an in and is presumably going to play it. No, I'm sorry, he already played Sycamore, so he's going to play it next time. So I think discarding the Escape Rope was kind of a mistake. Anyway, so we top deck a Volcanion-EX, and we're going to attach. And looking at his setup, it's possible but somewhat unlikely that he would be able to KO the Shaymin next turn. I'm here debating whether to attach the Float Stone to Shaymin to retreat it to protect it, but then I have the Volcanion-EX stuck in the active, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose that mobility and the ability to, use Max Elixirs onto the Volcanion and all that. It's just not worth it. He does retreat with his Float Stone back into the baby Volcanion. He plays another Max Elixir onto the EX. That one does hit. He steams up again. That's one. And then he plays a VS Seeker. Seeker's for a Sycamore. And I think that's probably right. His steam up was fine. If he gets enough EXs out and can steam up enough to have his baby Volcanion take a K on Shaymin, that's definitely what he wants to do. And he Ultra Balls for a Hoopa. So this should get out a couple more EXs at the very least, and that is certainly helpful to us. And he gets one EX and two Shaymin. That's pretty strange. he really, oh, he had an EX in his hand as well. So he plays 3 Shaymin in this deck and an Oranguru. So he is more draw heavy than any build I've seen. I think it's excessive, and I think it's a bit of a mistake to be exhausting all of his draw here. I mean, he's down to 14 cards. He's exhausting all of his cards, basically, but I don't know. I don't really like it. He is attaching energy in the right place, though. He is now with that hit. I think the previous hit where he attached to the middle Volcanion-EX was not correct. And then he gets rid of the Sky Field to get rid of his Hoopas and Shaymins. That's fine. We go ahead, we get another Float Stone, and we're going to make use of the Scorched Earth that he was so kind as to put out. And we're going to go ahead, do a manual attachment, and I still don't really want to just stick our EX up into the active. So I go ahead and just pass again. You know, he could get enough. He has the Volcanions on the bench. If he steams up that many times, if he steams up all 3 times and attaches an energy to the baby Volc, then he would take a KO on Shaymin. However, he has only got 8 cards left. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to steam up that many times. Obviously, he had a full hand, but he has kind of torn through his energy pretty quickly. He plays in, and we finally have something we can play. His Shaymin only for 20, choosing not to power heater at all. Again, maybe he's exhausting. I'm sorry, not to steam up at all. I'm thinking that maybe he has exhausted some of his resources. So here, I know that we're almost certainly going to replace the stadium, just to deny him that benefit. But we're gonna play some cards first. We go with the Trainers Mail before doing anything else. I think that's appropriate. We do get a Max Elixir. Debating a little bit about the Float Stone for some reason. I don't know why, because there's nothing useful that we can do with it. I do play the Max Elixir, and it hits. I go ahead, since we don't have to do a manual attachment, we don't want to attach to this Volc. So I use the stadium and then I get rid of it so that he can't benefit from it later. And then I go ahead, I'm thinking play the energy reset, steam up a second time in case we get a baby Volc, and then do a manual attachment to the other EX. And this is more than anything just sort of a just in case play. Obviously, to use a baby Volc, we'd have to hit an elixir onto a baby, which is clearly not happening at this point. So we go ahead. We do hit another elixir and attach to our second EX. And I'm debating the order of play here. I decided to go ahead and go for the Hoopa first, and we'll get out Shaymin and one more EX. We're going to ignore the 4th EX because we don't want to clutter up our bench with useless Pokemon any more than we have to. And the 4th one isn't. And then I'm checking prizes. We have... What are we missing? At the time I identified everything, but I think one of the interesting things we're missing is the Pokemon catchers. Here, I debate, I go back and forth, I decide we are going to draw all of them. think my thought is that I'll just not bench it and just get rid of it. No, I choose to play them both. I guess I'm just thinning my deck there, but part of me really thinks that it would have been better to hold on to it. I do choose to Ultra Ball and discard both supporters. That might be a slight mistake. Again, I think having the extra out from the VS Seeker if he ends us is helpful to us, but not a big deal. But I am trying to thin things down as much as possible. At this point, I'm not sure what I was looking for. Oh, I was looking for the Pokemon catcher and the elixir. Okay. Try to get our setup that much further. Go ahead, play the elixir, test chance first, and then we'll play the Max Elixir. It's very, very fortunate for us that the catcher worked, that we flipped heads, because that means we get the first KO. So we're certainly happy with that. We're going to go ahead, Volcanic Heat for the knockout, and with that we have effectively recovered from a Shaymin start. Everything seemed like it was going fairly well for our opponent. He totally got set up, and then instead we got to have some happy play. So that was a combination of luck and digging. Certainly the luck with the catcher flipping heads was key. And now our opponent's looking to take a return KO, I think. Excuse me. He's thinking. Obviously, if he takes a return KO, we're just going to KO him back with 6 cards left in his deck. I'm pretty sure he's burned through all of his elixirs, so we're more or less guaranteed a win at this point. I don't think there's any way that he can come back from us knocking out this next EX. And he does a steam up. And again, that is so wrong. You never steam up there. You do a manual attachment, making it so that if you get an energy next time, you can attack again with the following EX. That might have enabled him to continue on with the game if he managed to get another energy. We're going to go ahead and do our manual attachment. And we're double checking, I'm looking to see if we have a Max Elixir left in the deck. We do, as long as it wasn't prized. I can't remember whether it was prized or not. I go ahead and I decide to bench the Volcanion again in case he ends. We're looking to secure the KO. Not the KO, this is secure our outs. I thought briefly about playing the Professor's Letter to thin our deck from energy, but we do sort of need the energy too if he's able to get a knockout. If he isn't, then we win. So there's that. He retreats into the baby, so he's looking to power heater his way back into having energy. And again, this is where he hurt himself by having too much energy go down the drain. And he did have another energy, so if he had just done a manual attachment the previous turn instead of a useless steam up, it would have enabled him to attack this turn by doing a manual attachment here again. So little mistakes, but they're big mistakes. So he switches our Pokemon. He Lysanders to Hoopa. And oh my goodness, So he attacks Hoopa, and I just now realized that we had a win condition met right here. I'm going to use the escape rope and get our manual attachment and be probably Lysandre. I guess we take a win there too. So that works. Escape rope back into our Volc. Don't even need to do the attachment. We just do Lysandre play. But the other thing we could have done at this point, we could have end, and he would have decked out. But we didn't have to. That's a condition I didn't notice during this match here. I almost wonder, I mean, I guess potentially if he had some way to, like if he had a energy recycler or something else that would put cards back into his deck, a super rod, it wouldn't be a straight up win, but certainly would have been close. So with that, we'll go ahead. I want to pack off of this match, so I went ahead and opened it on video. And we don't get anything cool, but you know, go ahead, give you the treat of seeing a pack being opened. Yay. Ooh, 2 cards. But there's a Raichu. It's a holo rare that I didn't have. Or a holo, sorry. I guess it's probably rare as well. But and then we get into the next mirror match. So this time we win the coin flip. We'll get to go first. Hopefully not start Shaymin. Our opponent is helloing us. We'll say hello back. And go ahead, put our Volcanion out into the active. And click done. So with this hand, we're definitely going to see what we top deck. Quick play to the EX. You could argue that I should Trainers Mail first to see what this is going to be, but I absolutely know that Float Stone is going to the EX. I choose to go ahead and grab the Pokemon Ranger. I was thinking that if I Sycamore it away, it gets in the discards and I'll be able to VS it back in the future. We sort of lost a good amount of resources there by having Sycamore 2 VS away, as well as Max Elixir and an N, and the Ranger. But the Ranger, like we said, we were consciously saying, well, we'll get it back. Since we're getting rid of 2 VS, I'm not positive that that's the right play. But anyway, our draw off of Sycamore was pretty good, and then we come in here and we grab again our Shaymin, and this time just a 3rd EX. We're not messing with the 4th one. No need, no reason. We don't want to clutter up our cards. So at this point, we want to go ahead and use the Trainer's Mail for sure. I say that. I choose instead to do the Ultra Ball. I guess I was trying to thin the deck so there were more trainer cards, which is okay. We lost an energy that we might not have had to lose. As is, we still got nothing off of the mail. So, as they say, it is what it is. But now we have a Max Elixir, and you would think it would hit since our Trainer's Mail just got 4 energy and no trainers, but nope, it didn't. So we'll go ahead, play this Trainer's Mail, and see what it'll give us. We do get a Sky Field. Gonna play it just to thin our deck. There's no need to Ultra Ball currently. And then we will do an attachment to the benched EX. Again, looking for the possibility of doing a double attachment with Max Elixir next turn, and then being able to take the first KO that way. So we'll click done, and it goes over to our opponent. He draws a card, and he immediately attaches an energy to the active Volcanion, and then plays a Max Elixir after that. I think that was a mistake. I think playing the Elixir first is definitely better. Then he plays a Trainer's Mail. Gets another Max Elixir. I think actually playing the Trainer's Mail first, then the Elixirs, would have been the best order of operations, in which case he then would have had 3 energy potentially attached to one of the Volcanions. As is, it didn't happen, and that's okay. It's certainly good for us. Here I go ahead, I play the energy retrieval for 1, because I know that I'm going to be Sycamoring, so I'm going to lose the card either way. Might as well go ahead and get in and get the attachment in. And then we have a Max Elixir, and it does hit even though we've got a ton of energy in our hand. So that's great. We now have a powered up Volcanion-EX, and what I'm thinking about now is sort of deciding if I want to try to get rid of some energies to then bench Shaymin to try to go for a not a Lysandre, but like a Pokemon catcher or an Escape Rope. But I don't go that route. I go ahead instead and take a KO on the baby Volcanion. Usually I don't worry about the babies, but he is so far back in setup from us that I go ahead and do it. I figure that taking that KO is going to set him back even further. I'm iffy on this play still, because it does have the effect of we only have 1 EX up in the active. He can't attack. Essentially, like, we have 1 EX that can't attack that is fully powered, and we're otherwise in basically the same position he is. So I'm not convinced that that helped us significantly. It slowed him down for a moment, but that was all. Here I go ahead, I stick the baby Volcanion out, figuring that I'll go ahead and work on charging up the other 2 EXs. And let me see, our opponent doing a steam up, playing an Ultra Ball. I'm guessing he's going for a Shaymin here. And here I was checking to see if I had any energies. He didn't go for a Shaymin, he just went directly into the 3rd EX, but he has a Shaymin in hand. So set up for 5 new cards, and we see a Trainer's Mail for a Float Stone. And he plays the Float Stone onto the Volcanion that has energy. That's good, that's correct. We see another Shaymin come down for another setup for 5. Part of me, sticks with the, if you can avoid playing too many Shaymin early on, do so, because it gives you backups for later in the game. But at the same time, he was pretty far behind, so being able to try to catch up with digging further to try to get that Max Elixir, I think is actually a reasonable thing. So there, I go ahead, I take the Scorched Earth, discard an energy, and do a manual attachment to the baby. The baby's only going to last us for 1 turn, but we'll get some benefit out of it. So I do 1 steam up so that we can definitely have the 2 energies in the discard, and then I'm debating here whether or not it's worth it to steam up additional times. I kind of think it's not, because we are pretty confident that the baby is going down. But I choose to go ahead. Um, my only thought is that I must have been thinking. I'm actually not sure what I was thinking. I think we either don't steam up anymore, or we steam up multiple times to try to get a KO, but even then we'd have to hit a Sky Field and bench a fourth Volcanions. I don't know why I did the second steam up, because now we still have one energy in the discard. I guess I was looking at it thinking, okay, well, next time if I steam up once, I'll get a KO. But again, it's very unlikely that our baby will live through this turn. So I'm not sure how I feel about that play. We do, however, have Lysandre. And so if he KOs our baby Volcanion, that leaves us free to promote our powered up Volc, in which case we'll then be able to Lysandre whatever he has the most energy on and take a knockout there. And we've also got the Professor's Letter in hand, so we will be able to do one manual attachment this turn, and then potentially follow it up next turn. So he chooses to distribute his energy. Instead of having two fully powered up, he has one fully powered up, one with two, and one with one. I think that's fine. Here I go ahead, like I said, play the Professor's Letter, and I'm debating whether or not to play the Escape Rope. If I'm playing it, it's pretty much entirely to thin the deck, but I think that we're better off just leaving it in case we need it, because we can always make the Escape Rope play where we Escape Rope into the Volc with the Float Stone and then retreat back into this guy to reset his attack if our opponent is unable to attack next turn. You'll note that I choose not to play the Scorched Earth draw benefit. That's because we only have the one energy right now. Unless our opponent ends, we're guaranteed to be able to get that attachment. Whereas if our opponent, if we were to do a steam up or do the Scorched Earth to get the extra 2 cards, we very well might miss an energy. Granted, we have Sycamore in hand, so we probably would get it there, but maybe not. Our opponent does in us down to 3, which is kind of rough, but you know, it's okay as long as we can find an energy, and we do. Find an energy and a Float Stone. The Pokemon Catcher probably won't matter too much. And he is limiting our damage, but since we hit everything for weakness, it's really not going to matter. He also got rid of his Shaymins, which also won't matter. It's really changing out the stadiums is a negligible play, not going to make much difference. We'll go ahead and attach the fire energy to the active. Well, we promote the one with Float Stone. Attach the fire energy. Attach the Float Stone to the benched Volcanion. Well, I think I went back and forth on this because part of me wanted to make sure he couldn't do a Lysandre Hoopa-stall. But then I'm sitting here thinking about playing the Ultra Ball. So I'm also thinking, I guess I could Shaymin for more cards, or I could wait until next hand. I wanted to check. I saw that there was one Max Elixir that hadn't been played. I couldn't remember if it was prized or not, but now looking back, I'm pretty sure it was. However, I decided to try to dig for it, so I did go ahead and play the Ultra Ball. And I see that it's not in there when I'm looking around for the Shaymin. So that was a bit of a disappointment by my opponent. decides to go ahead and just give up. I don't think I necessarily had this match locked up by any means. I was certainly going to KO his energized Volcanion, but I wasn't guaranteed to be able to follow it up. He probably wouldn't have been able to either. So we probably would have won, but I don't think it was necessarily bad enough that it necessitated him conceding. And now for the final mirror match of the day. So we start off having to mulligan. And our opponent's taking their time before they play 2 cards. So we go ahead and click done. And get another mulligan. And we click done again. And get a baby Volcanion. So obviously that's going to be what we place in the active initially. Looking at our hand, if nothing changes, we'll probably Ultra Ball, getting rid of the Lysandre and the VS. Okay, so we see that our opponent has 2 EXs, and we draw a Professor's Letter. I do go ahead, get rid of the Lysandre and the VS. Obviously we grab a Hoopa, and we scan for our prizes. So no Shaymin or prize. Whoa. Okay, well 2 of our elixirs are out currently. We only have 1 other elixir, so 1 is prized. Looks like both of our ends are prized. 1 of our float stones is prized, and 2 energy. So that's gonna be rough for us. That means that our elixirs have a higher chance than normal of missing, and it also means that we have fewer chances to use them. It means we have less retreat because lacking the float stone, and we have less draw power because we're lacking in. So a pretty rough set of prizes for us there, really. So we'll go ahead and do our standard bench 2 Volcanions and then tear through some of these cards. Go ahead, we want to immediately attach to 1 of our EXs. Our first elixir does hit, that's certainly a good thing. And the second elixir also hits, so we, despite our setbacks, we do start off with a fully powered up EX. Gotta love that. We'll Shaymin for 5 additional cards. And we get another EX, a Float Stone, and a Sycamore. And here, if I remember, I made a grave error. Well, okay, not exactly here. Playing the Float Stone, definitely correct. I'm looking at it and I'm Sycamoring. I was very wrong in thinking that we already had 3 EXs out. So that was a big mistake. Clearly we wanted to bench our EX and then Sycamore. But we do what we can to recover. We see our opponent benches a baby Volcanion and attaches an energy to it, and then draws a Sycamore off a Trainers Mail. And they'll then bench a Hoopa, probably grabbing a 3rd Volc-EX and a Shaymin. Yep. That's certainly the correct play there. And we see steam ups starting. So he probably, and there we see it, I was going to say he probably has a way to get his baby Volcanion into the active. And here I choose to go ahead and promote our EX. And then he Lysandres our non-powered up EX. That's a little painful to us. Obviously, that's not how we want things to be playing out. And as we saw earlier, one of our float stones is prized, and some of our draw support is prized. So, what are we going to do here? Well, my thinking at the time was that we needed to work to get that Volcanion A out of the active and B powered up. Both of these are certainly priorities, but I think that attaching to him might actually be a mistake. I don't know, it's close. Really, we want, it's sort of a do-and-don't. We want to have the third Volcanion on the bench so we can be doing power heaters to him. But since we don't have him, now here clearly we could draw him, but we're looking to play Shaymin at this point, trying to dig for that Float Stone. I really want to get the Float Stone without having to play Sycamore, but doesn't look like that's going to happen, obviously, because I'm wanting to play Lysandre and take out one of his EXs. But that's not going to be the case. So we do go ahead, play a VS for Sycamore, dropping several energy in the meantime. But we do get a bunch of Trainer Mails. So I go ahead, and lo and behold, we got a Float Stone. So I'll grab it, and then the next thing we want to do is see if we can find a way to get around the fact that we can't play Lysandre. So we try a Pokemon catcher, it fails. We get another Pokemon catcher off the Trainer's Mail. And obviously we'll be playing this immediately. But it also fails. One more Trainer's Mail. Nothing super exciting. We do get a Sycamore. But obviously that's for next turn. I think here, obviously, we'll attach the Float Stone. Okay, I play the Sky Field. I think that's fine. Then benching the second baby Volcanion, I think, is also fine. And then we're going to retreat into him. And this is where our attachment really hurts us, because we'd like to be power heating, but we end up with the same amount of energy on our EX as we would otherwise. But we could have, if we had another EX, we could have energy on him as well. B, we could have energy on the other baby in our current situation. So it's not great. But we're not in horrible shape. We just sort of missed out on a lot of resources when we're already short on resources this game from having so many good cards prized. And given what we have, given everything that we have prized, I think this might be a situation where prioritizing taking knockouts could make some sense. I didn't think it at the time, I didn't think about it, but it might have been a spot where it would have been good to just go ahead and say, hey, okay, as long as he can't follow up immediately with the KO, let's knock out a baby just to do so. In this case, we're left sort of with a similar decision, right? And again, I attach to the EX. I'm going back and forth about it in my head, but I end up attaching to the EX. And I again can see both sides of this, right? one, we're going to Sycamore. The chances of us getting our final EX are fairly high given how many cards are left in our deck. So I think just that makes it a should attach to the baby. We do get the Trainers Mail for a Max Elixir. But the question is whether or not we even have any energy left. Since we, tore through our deck so much, we know that there are at least 3 in our discards. We have 5 more out and 1 in hand, so that's 9 total. So there should be 1 in our deck somewhere, which should mean that we'll hit it with this elixir, unless my count is off. We may have 4 in our discards though. I should have checked that. Oh, nope, we hit it. This is our final energy, and I choose to attach it to the brand new Volcanion. I think that's fine. But again, we're in trouble because of tearing through our energy so quickly, and because we had multiple energy prized. At this point, the only energy we have left to play is in our prizes and in our hand, the one in our hand. And that's rough. Our opponent's going to take a KO. And there's not a lot we can do about that. We do have a Lysandre left in our deck. So 25%. I think we have a Lysandre left. Actually, I take that back. I'm not sure if we do. No, I think we may have played all of them, and with one of our Sycamores, we got rid of multiple VS Seekers, so we may or may not even have an out. In any case, we only have 4 cards left, and the chances of us being able to KO all of his Volcs with what we have out is very, very slim. He knocks out our baby. We knew that was going to happen. And now he has 2 fully powered up EXs. It's not looking good for us. I go ahead and I promote the damaged Volcanion. We're going to do a manual attachment. I hope. Okay, so 3 there, yeah. So we have no energy left. So we clearly can't play the Scorched Earth. I'm thinking about trying to dig for a Lysandre. But I think I gave up on that idea. I play the Escape Rope in case he's somehow poor enough to feed me something that he shouldn't feed me, but of course he just promotes his baby. His play was correct. Here, I'm thinking about playing the Ultra Ball. We're never going to need Sycamore because we only have 3 cards left. We really probably aren't even going to need the Float Stone, but I wanted to look and see what we have left. So we have VS and we have a Fisherman. Both of those would be so clutch right now, but we can't get them. Do I attach to the baby? Do I really do that? I did. So, I mean, the good side of this is that we can get energy back out, which is helpful. The bad side is that we're in really rough shape. And we only have 3 cards left. So there's no way to force our opponent to promote an EX until we can hit that VS Seeker. And then they'll have incentive, obviously. if we were to top deck the VS Seeker, we could take down one of their 2 fully powered up Volcanions. Then they promote another one, and then we take it down, and then at that point they would probably have enough energy out to attack with the final Volcanion. I was making a note there that if he had VS Secret for an N, it wins him the game, because we would draw all 3 of our additional cards. But he didn't see it, which, is okay by us. We'd still really like to hit a VS Seeker of our own. And he's doing lots and lots of steam ups. He's fine for energy, so it's not an issue exactly. But it would be an issue if we weren't already in dire straits. So we go ahead, once again, promote a powered up Volcanion, and we top deck Fisherman. So that's more or less going to seal the deal for us. We can't knock out enough to win the game at this point. So we go ahead, play the Fisherman, get 2 energy back, because, that's how it is. That's all that we had. And then I will do 1 manual attachment, and then I'm going to retreat, and I'm going to retreat into Hoopa, because Hoopa does not get hit for weakness. And then I'll just click done. Doesn't really matter one way or the other that we did that in the end, because we're going to deck out, which again all comes back to it ultimately all comes back to us missing our initial Pokemon catcher plays, and it comes back to our opponent with his clutch Lysandre to slow us down there in the early game. So he did well, and it has led to this result where nobody's done a whole lot. He's knocked out 2 babies, which gives him a prize advantage for sure. But in the end, the difference that it has made is simply that we weren't ever in a position where we could attack. And he did well to keep us in that position, and our cards really lined up poorly every chance that we got to move away from that. I do think I made a few mistakes. I think I noted them throughout the episode here, but it really hurt us when we missed both of those Pokemon catchers, and having again energy and having our Float Stone and ends prized, because we could have. The reason I'm harping on the ends there is that we could have very, very clearly played an N potentially any of the times we Sycamored, and not actually lost the resources when we were digging for cards. Here I just go ahead and click through. We're done, and I don't know if he's going to take a KO or not, but I guess so. But in the end, it sort of doesn't matter. We're done for, and we're going to. I guess I wanted to go ahead and get 1 knockout, so I went ahead and clicked done, so that I can draw the VS Seeker and do a Sycamore, or do a Lysandre play. But yes, it's official now. I'm no longer undefeated at the mirror matches, and I think part of that was misplays on my part, but a lot of it was really, really bad setup, and I didn't really identify how bad early on. If I had thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done all that digging. And that digging is how he lost out on the energy trade. Um, so I think that was the biggest mistake I made, was just going crazy digging to try to get out of the active. With that, we'll wrap up for today, and I'll be back next time with another episode of Rainbow Road.